Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sports on I-40 podcast. We are here today to talk about a couple games that we had seen this past week, Holbrook versus Alchesay and Holbrook versus Snowflake. Now, this is the end, getting close to the end of the season. I believe Holbrook has one more game left, right?
Two more games.
Or two more games. So they're playing, I know they finished the season with Sholo. Who are they playing this week?
Alchesay.
Oh, so they got Alchesay Tuesday and then Sholo to finish out the season, which would be senior night, I'm assuming, this coming Wednesday. So as expected, this season was sort of a roller coaster ride, and I think both of us, though we said Holbrook boys was the favorite, it's sort of, they didn't really, I think they're basically on pace to do that, to win the East again. It was just interesting to see how exactly they got to this point. Holbrook girls, on the other hand, we had mentioned in other podcasts that some games they played great, and then some games they really struggled. And we've talked about a variety of reasons why that might be. But all in all, potentially, I think the Holbrook girls might make the 3A state tournament. But I think when it comes to the Copper, they are probably not going to make it for that particular tournament.
That's what it looks like so far, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So hope everybody had a great week this week. We certainly had some things going on I guess we can talk about this before we talk about the games. So I went to, I think it was like a third grade or an 8 and under tournament this past weekend on Saturday in Winslow. I was watching my fiance's nephew. I guess your nephew as well, over there. But what I thought was interesting about that, and what prompted me to have questions about basketball is, if you think about it, you really have 18 years to develop all of your skills, all of your knowledge, which hopefully will culminate in a senior season that is, I guess on the state championship side. But even if you set the state championship part or on the side, you have 18 years to develop to eventually potentially make yourself a prospect for college basketball, right?
Yep.
So going to this city league over there in Winslow, just seeing the young kids out there playing basketball, it was just interesting to see them start out. They're just, they're still, young, but they're learning the rules of the game. They're learning, how to dribble, how to shoot. And it was, I guess since we've been watching basketball a lot this past year, you see each level as they progress from little kids division to upper elementary to junior high, and then to freshman, JV, and varsity. But again, it's a process, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It takes. I'm going to go out on a line here and say this. All in all, I would say a majority of people, and that includes myself, are probably in the realm of having to put a lot of time and effort into developing skill. And then there's a smaller population of people out there who we classify them as naturals. They just get it, and they don't really require a whole lot of practice to develop these skills, whether it's shooting or developing moves or even just having a skill of dribbling. So based on, I would say, the average or the mean, to me, it seems like most players fall in that category of having to develop those skills. And I think you really see that with the younger children. You'll notice that there are younger players who really get it, and they really, dribble the ball, and they have a better tendency of shooting. And then there's other players who are still trying to learn, and I don't know if it's like a fitting in thing with your teammates, unless you're playing on a team with your relatives, right? But if you're playing on a team where you don't really know the people that well, and you're a young player, and if you're shy, it might be kind of difficult to express yourself out there on the ball court. But again, it was seeing that development there at the early age, and then walking through up into the upper divisions of basketball. It really is a process.
Yeah, there's a social aspect to it too. and just having a kid comfortable and all that, and it it, it if the kid's comfortable and he knows people, the players and all that, it's maybe a friend or so playing on the same team, like yeah, it works. Something I seen recently, I seen a video on the internet kind of floating around was that when a kid develops I forgot how it went, but it said like when kids become good, it's they're not the ones lazy. It's the parents. The parents are the ones that are lazy, and that to me that meant a lot because like today nowadays like a kid don't have the means to play basketball really. Like there's a park, yeah, there's basketball goals and all that provided, but getting to the tournaments or getting to practice and all that, that's the parents. That's the parents. That's their duty as a parent, I guess. If they want their kid to be better at something, they'll make ends meet. They'll make a way to get their player to practices on time or to the tournament, to all these things. And if a parent, they'll want to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning to take their kids to practice, whatever, it's on them. And I thought that was really interesting, and that 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 meant a lot to me.
Uh, when I think back on myself, I went to a small school, 1A school in Joseph City.
Uh,
And at that time, this would have been probably around the year 2000, 2001. So I guess I'd put me in sixth grade. But back then, I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of resources, or I don't want to say resources, but there wasn't really a whole lot of opportunity for younger players that are young opportunities that were available for players to go and learn how to play basketball. Now, you either probably had to have a relative or know somebody that noticed you to be placed on a traveling team
hmm
uh, to go out there and get that experience. Uh, I know Holbrook actively had some kind of program like that. I know that my brother, he played in the intramural league in Holbrook, and then Coach Mendoza noticed him and then invited my brother to play on their little traveling team that they would do during the summer for elementary. Those little I went to like 10 and under,
Oh
12 and
yeah.
under
Uh,
tournaments, right? And that's how it for him. That's how it sort of gave him a jump start or a head start when it came to becoming experienced. But uh, for me, and I use myself as an example because I don't know. I just think, and I wasn't the greatest basketball player of all time. I think if I probably would have went to Holbrook, um, I probably, I guess if I stayed with the team, I probably would have maybe made varsity, but I probably wouldn't have been maybe like the 10th man on the bench or something.
uh,
Uh, that just goes to the talent that Holbrook had at that time, anyways. But the opportunity for players to get experience, and it seems like when you look at it now, uh, it seems like a lot more parents are somehow finding teams to put their players on. And I know you have a team, right, that you put together every now and then during the summer, right, to get not only your own children some experience, but other kids in the community as well, right?
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of work, man. It's hard, especially with kids from the res and all that, and getting them out there to these places. And most tournaments are out there, Gallup and Flagstaff and Las Vegas, Phoenix, and a lot of the competitions out there. Like locally, there's some tournaments here and there, but if you want competition, then you gotta go out. And I myself, I was brought up in that too with my uncles and them having a team and all that, and so I knew what it was. I knew what it was like and what it would take. So and experiencing it through as a coach and as a parent, man, I enjoy this, man. It's a lot of fun. You can't do it to do it. You gotta enjoy it. You gotta love the game and have that passion for it. And if you have that, man, it's a lot easier.
Yeah, let's kind of fast forward to, or not fast forward, but sort of change the context to the city. I have a cousin that grew up in California,
hmm
and she was telling me that over there in California, and I guess she lives in Pasadena, so over there, she was telling me that in the elementary school they don't have, or even I guess in the elementary school they don't have a organized school sports team.
Uh,
So if you want to do something like basketball, you have to go out and find a traveling team
oh, really?
or like a city league to join.
Hmm.
And I guess it's not until maybe junior high when you finally have an organized team to be on, right,
Yeah.
for your school. Uh, so I've noticed on the internet that there has been a big change when it comes to trying to get younger players to get experience. And it's sort of become, I want to say that it seems like all sports, whether it's golf, basketball, football, volleyball, whatever, it's sort of evolved into, it's no longer a lot of underprivileged kids that do it now. It seemed like in the past, you think in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and 90s, a lot of professional sports were played by individuals who came from underprivileged youth, right,
Mm-hmm.
around the country. But now, and I now it seems like you're starting to have these upper leagues like the AAU with the players that are, top tier players that are Division 1 prospects.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of those players are come from, a privileged household, right? And I also heard on other podcasts where they talk about the same subject that a lot of these players are like, sons and daughters of professional players.
Yep.
So it seems like these traveling teams are starting to be flooded with, players from families that they come from a family of means, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's I can understand that too. It's difficult. You got to spend the money for the equipment, and then to get your child to the tournaments every weekend or whatever. So there's a lot of expense and a lot of
Yeah.
cost that goes into developing players, right?
Yeah. And even sometimes too, you end up helping out another kid or somebody else. See one of your kid's friend or some other kids that don't have all the resources or whatever, sometimes you got to help them too. And, it, you know, you know what you've been in their shoe and all that. So, you want to do what you can for them too sometimes. So,
Mm. Yeah. So it seems like in the smaller towns, the smaller rural towns, whether it's the size of Holbrook or smaller, it seems like a lot of players, unless you find some team to get on, you're really not going to get a whole lot of experience until you get to junior high. And then you start playing organized basketball. And for me, that was probably my case where I didn't really start getting a whole lot of experience outside of recess, right?
yeah.
Until we got to junior high. And it wasn't just me. It was like my whole entire seventh grade team. Um, we didn't have any experience at all. So as you can imagine, we weren't very good. And um, sometime we'll get Victor Paz on here, and he can tell you all about it because I remember Victor Paz and I are the same age, and they came
Uh,
over to Joe City, and they beat us pretty bad back then. So, but it was. I always tell my fiance when we watch these junior high games, I tell her the most points we ever scored in all of junior high was 16 points.
really?
Yeah, we were that bad. But in eighth grade, we did beat St. John's. I think they scored 14. So they were a little bit worse than we were at that time.
I think for schools like you're talking about when they start out on the res, they get some of the schools out there start them like at fourth grade. They have they have basketball teams and cross country and all that. They start them off around fourth grade, I believe, somewhere around there, and all the way to sixth grade. From some of the schools that I know, like the smaller elementary schools. So they kind of seem like they start up early. They develop a little earlier than towns like you said out in the border towns or in the city. It seemed like you can see it like when in the tournaments and all that. You'll see a team from res go up against a team from the town or whatever in the city, and then they'll do pretty good against them. So that I think that's a good start for their development.
Yeah, one of the things that I notice when I see players is, I guess one of the tall tales to one of the signs to me of a player that is skilled, and I don't know what I don't know exactly on the scale this would be, but I notice that there are some players in high school that are unsure about dribbling, and then there are players that are really sure about dribbling. A good example would be Channing Harrington from Holbrook. She's just very skilled at dribbling, and to me that speaks volumes to her skill level and where she is at a player. And then you see other. I'm not going to name other players that I've seen specifically, but I'll just say that I've seen other players from other schools um, where dribbling is a task for them,
Mm.
though they're able to get around and play and do things. It's just you can just see the differences in play, right?
Yeah. Um, there's I see like lately in the last few years, whatever, a lot of trainers have been available lately, and I know Channing is one of the prospects from a trainer down in Phoenix. He's a we mentioned him before, Ephraim Sloan. He has a little program going on called Run and Gun, and he's she's come from that camp,
Mm.
and I believe she grew up down there a little bit, and that's kind of where she got her skills from, I believe.
Really, he's doing
Yeah,
that.
he does that, and I have my daughter do that a little bit too, and there's other girls that from other schools that do that too, and it's noticeable. You can see it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess for people who've been following basketball, your local team for years, there are always certain players that stand out that you remember. And I know we're coming to the end of the season. There's only a few more games left, but for me, um, these players, I don't want to say they're exactly hometown heroes, but they're certainly, I guess you could say maybe, I don't know, local legends, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ephraim Sloan is one of them because I remember when he played and hearing about him, uh, even eagerly listening to Casey and when Windrock played, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember the little video they shot like a 15-minute video or something for him. I think when he was a senior. Uh, I remember seeing him play a few times. So there are certain players that you just got to remember, and I'm sure everyone has a name. I can think of a couple off the top of my head. Cordero Bennett's one of them that I can think of off the top of my
Yeah.
head. Olajuwon Pusher is another one for Holbrook, right? And I didn't even go to school at Holbrook, but those are players that I just remember, right?
Uh,
So, and everybody, and if you're watching out there, just take a few seconds, a few minutes, or 30 seconds, and just think about, some of the players that have come and gone in your area, even going back as I I never seen Bobby Manheimer play in high school, but I did see him play at MPC. What was it, like the 98 season, 98,
yeah.
99 season, somewhere around there?
Yep.
Him and Brian Holiday,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I remember Brian Holiday's sister, Allison Holiday. I seen her play for Monument Valley. I think she graduated like 2004 or something, somewhere around there. So, just the fact that we still remember these people. So, I guess to the young people out there who are currently on these teams, just in a way, um, I think your performance out there on basketball court or any venue, whether it's golf or football or whatever, people remember that, and in a sense, you're sort of you're sort of living, in their minds as well. And it's like, what was that when in the Sandlot they say, what was it? Heroes are remembered, but legends never die, right?
Just never die. Yep.
Yeah. So just remember that, what you do on the court, people do remember that,
Yep.
And it brings the player might be they might have a roller coaster season, but the fans have that same experience too. And it's like if you're winning, you're out there and you're succeeding, and the fans sort of kind of get that same vibe too. Like, because we're a local community, a small community, and I think what's unique about being Native American is and being Navajo or Diné is that a lot of these local teams, a lot of these players are either your relatives or you're related to them by clan,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So I think uh, your 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 play and your presence out there, I think it means a lot more than they think it does, right?
Yep.
Um, and even if we're not related or or anything like that, people still remember, and I still remember all those things too, right?
For sure.
So bringing that, we talked about that. I think it translates well into what we're going to talk about when it comes to Holbrook. Now, Holbrook girls versus Alchesay girls. I had a lot of hopes for Holbrook girls. I remember when they played last year, they made a lot of improvements, and I really thought that they could do things in the off season such that they would make a big impact this coming season because they have a few seniors, Dea Guerrero, Holly Casimiro, right, Kalia Chi. I think they. I was thinking they were really going to build off that and come back this coming season and sort of continue where they left off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some ways they improved a lot, and in some ways they sort of um, were mired by their own mistakes, right? Now, when it comes to Alchesay, I think it was one of those games where the Holbrook girls were supposed to win, and they came out and ended up and won, right?
Yeah.
And that was great for them, and it was good to see too. Uh, in the grand scheme of things in the East, I'm not exactly sure if that really helped them as far as maybe putting them somewhere in a position to. Well, they're not going to win the East. I think it's going to either be Shola or Snowflake, right,
Mm-hmm.
for the girls division.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like.
But given that we're only a couple games towards the end of the season, what's kind of your thoughts on the Holbrook girls season before we talk specifically about the Alchesay game?
Um, yeah, like you said, like they got some seniors. This is the last run at the state right now, and I think at the beginning of the season we've seen some really some good things at the beginning of the season, and we thought that was a continue through the whole season, but it kind of changed midway through, and they had a little some rough games after that, and it seemed like they're slowly coming back together, and they've been winning some games lately, and uh, just looking to next year again, I think they'll have pretty good some pretty good shooters for the next few years. They'll have Angelica, some bigs here and there. They'll have Bailey returning again too, and she's a big help to the team too. So yeah, they're gonna be losing Dea Guerrero and Elena Yazzie and some of the starters there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, so the starting lineup for the Holbrook girls: Channing Harrington, Elena Yazzie, Angelica Urenga. I always pause when try to pronounce her last name. Bailey Williams and Holly Casimiro.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I look at the notes that I took for that game, is we have the end of the first quarter. Holbrook was barely winning by 1 point, 13-12. Channing Harrington shot 4 3-pointers and made 1 in the first quarter. So this was really a game of a lot of twos. Not really a whole lot of jumpers, but um, shots made down low, right off the glass there. In the second quarter, Holbrook shot a lot more 3-pointers. They shot 2, 4, 6, 7 3-pointers and only made 3 out of the 7.
Uh-huh.
At the end of that quarter, at the end of the second quarter, Holbrook was winning 26-16. From what I recall in the girls' game there, I feel like it could have been a lot closer. Alchesay just missed a lot of shots,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't think the score specifically reflects Alchesay not being good. I think it just shows that they just missed. If they would have made 50% of the shots that they miss, I think it would have been a close game.
Mm.
But sometimes it just doesn't. The ball just doesn't go in the hoop for some reason, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's just really nothing you can do about that too, right? If we go to the third quarter here, third quarter, Holbrook was winning 40-22. Um, and again, Alchesay, I think they just missed a lot of shots. Just didn't go in. Holbrook only shot 2 3-pointers and made two. Alchesay shot 2 3-pointers and didn't make any of them. Uh, Alchesay had a lot more fouls in the third quarter. They had one, two, three, four, five fouls. Holbrook only had, well, okay, I mean, Alchesay went to the free throw line 5 times, is what I'm trying to say. Holbrook only went to the free throw line 1 time in the third quarter. And if we go to the fourth quarter here, um, the final score for the game was 51-32. Holbrook went to the free throw line in the fourth quarter 2 times. Alchesay only went to the free throw line 1 time. So again, it just wasn't a great shooting night for Alchesay. And if I look at the roster here, let me see here. How many? So for the girls varsity, they had Lena Lavender, Alyssa Jim, Ramona Gregg, Peyton Parker, and Hannah Quintero. Right. So a junior, a senior, a freshman, and a junior. So I think like Holbrook, Alchesay has a lot of juniors.
Mhm.
So I would expect Alchesay to continue to improve next season. And I'm not exactly sure because this is the first time I've seen Alchesay play in person. I think I saw a little bit of them play online. Um, but my thoughts, I guess, on their team towards the end of the season is they're going to improve and they're going to get better, and I fully expect them next season to be at least a step ahead of where they are now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I believe so too. They got a they got a good coaching staff. Seen like I watched a little bit of their JV game too, a little bit too, and they look like they're doing pretty good. They'll have some decent players coming up in the next few years.
JV, I was there for the JV, and I don't remember. Did the Holbrook JV girls beat Alchesay, or was it the other way around? I think Alchesay beat JV
Yeah.
girls. Alchesay's JV beat Holbrook JV girls, right? Um, so again, it's just hard to say exactly, um, what the issues could be. Um, in a lot of ways, it goes back to what we talked about earlier: is you only have 18 years to develop skill and all of that to have a good team at the end of the year. It sort of has to, go into place. I know we talked earlier too about how in the state championship it does also require some luck too, right? So, but again, for that game, I think I'll say they have a lot to look forward to next year. Now, the next game, Holbrook girls versus Snowflake girls. Um, so full disclosure, I wasn't able to make it to the game. It was my mom's birthday. Shout out to my mom. Happy birthday. So, I had talked, you and I talked prior to the game or hours before the game, and I was just hoping that you would take the lead and just kind of have a lot more to say than I would about it. But I guess before going to that, my thoughts would be Snowflake. I know they were going to be a tough game for Holbrook. They just have the height, uh, and they are certainly. I'm not exactly sure if they are they in the mix to win the East. They're sort of. It's going to come down to
Yeah,
Snowflake and Sholo.
I believe they're ahead right now in the conference as far as record wise, and I believe they're ahead. Yeah, it was a good game. I didn't watch the beginning part of the game, but I heard that Snowflake came out shooting, and pretty much all their shots were going in, even the threes, and I believe they had a quick ahead, quick. They got up ahead right away in the Holbrook couldn't match their intensity and they pulled away from Holbrook pretty quick. Um, I heard that Holbrook started most of their seniors that night, girls, and not the normal typical starting five was they kind of changed it up for her, and that kind of hurt them a little bit. And they played catch up most of the whole game, and then we got there by halftime maybe, a little after halftime, and they were down by like maybe by 30 30 points maybe, and they came back within they did a comeback. I think at the least they were down by I can't remember exactly. I think like 8 points or something at the at the least or somewhere around there. So they had a good run on them, and Snowflake started playing more defense, made more shots again, and executed their plays, and they got ahead again. I believe they ended up the game winning. Snowflake ended up winning 64-46, but it was Holbrook had a chance. They made a good run, and I believe they could have done that, but it just didn't go their way. One of the I believe in the fourth quarter, one of the Snowflake girls hit a big three and kind of messed up the run there for a while. So after that, it was kind of downhill for Holbrook. After that, they were within, like I said, like less than 10 points.
I see. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Holbrook sort of had the girls. They sort of have like a whole team of guards, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I guess when I say that, I mean they don't really have a whole lot of height compared to other schools like Snowflake and Sholo.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say there's a premium on height, right? And I think Snowflake and Sholo are teams where they have both the height and they have the skill as well. And it's hard to if you have a team that you can't. It's hard when you're unable to match physically with the other team, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of things have to go right. And I was sort of expecting it to be a lot closer. I know you and I went to the Snowflake game at Snowflake
Yeah.
earlier. It was it last year, right? And I kind of figured that Holbrook would do a lot better at home than how they did in Snowflake. And I think they played better at Snowflake, right? I think it was maybe they lost by 10, maybe.
No, Holbrook girls won that game. I believe they won that game.
Oh my gosh, I guess yes, Holbrook girls won that game. So
Yep.
my mistake, everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, Holbrook girls won that game. So I guess I was expecting them to have a chance at beating them here in Holbrook. So I guess I was not aware. I guess I just totally didn't think about that at all. Excuse me, everybody. Sometimes I get the information incorrect sometimes. But thank you for letting me know about it.
Yeah, Holbrook girls won.
It's funny because I was there. I was at the game. I didn't even remember they beat him.
53-44.
Uh-huh. Okay. So that was a must-win game for Snowflake then, right? To keep
Yep.
them in the mix. So I guess I could see their eagerness to win this game against Holbrook, right? I would imagine. I guess I was just surprised that they beat Snowflake in Snowflake,
Mm.
and I thought that given that their victory over Alchesay, that they could probably continue that momentum and beat Snowflake, which would have put them in a better position because they play Sholo at the end of the year on Wednesday, right?
Yep.
So maybe in some, I don't know, hypothetical, I figured if they could beat Snowflake again and then split the series with Sholo, that maybe they could be in a position to win the East or at least be in the mix. But after this loss to Snowflake, it is a race against Sholo and Snowflake for the East Championship.
Yeah, they got Sholo's. You were right. Sholo's sitting ahead right now, 8-0 in the conference play. Snowflake number 2 with 6-2, and Holbrook sitting third with 4-4. Winslow 4 at 3-6. So
Okay. Well, look forward to Tuesday and then Wednesday, right? Wednesday is going to be senior night, right, for Holbrook.
yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. Well, that will lead us into the other the other series here. Holbrook versus Alchesay, and then Holbrook versus Sholo. Now, I got there early. Um, so I got to see. I want to have a good seat. It got pretty full in there, didn't it?
It did.
I think Alchesay came for the boys' game. The Alchesay boys are doing well this year. I think prior to Holbrook playing Alchesay, I think Alchesay was at the top of the East simply because they hadn't played Holbrook yet, right? And they had some victories over Winslow. They had victories. I think they beat Snowflake too, right?
Yeah.
So, you had those games that were already played. Now, I was watching Alchesay warm up, and you and I always have some kind of what was it, a friendly wager, right? About or yeah, about who we think's going into or who's going to win by how many points, right? And I remember telling you, I think what'd you say it was? Two, you thought they were going to win by two?
I said 2 points.
2 points. And I said that Holbrook was going to win by five because I felt that Coach Delmar Johnson is just really good at navigating his team, especially towards the very end. And I think that coaching is really what puts Holbrook over the edge against all these other teams. And I think that focus and navigating from the coach was going to be the difference maker. And that was going to put Holbrook up over Alchesay by more than five or more points, right? Watching Alchesay warm up, I figured it was going to be close. Alchesay, um, they have, I mean, they're not spectacularly tall, but they were definitely taller or as tall as Holbrook, right?
Yeah, definitely.
They they could dribble, they could shoot, so they certainly were not a team to underestimate, right?
Mm.
And I remember telling you that the 5 point that Holbrook was going to win by five, but I was still unsure about that. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, and I remember there was one player on the team that I had pointed out that what was it? I thought he looked a lot older. But I was saying that I guess that's how an 18-year-old should look. They should look like an adult, right? um, but anyways, yeah. Um, Starting out with the game, and let me look at my notes here. Um, it was a fast-paced game, and it just made me tired just watching them play. They were just, uh, man, it brings me back like when I was 18, 16, 17, 18, and I could just run, and not have any issues. And, seeing these youthful players, go out there and run like that, man, it was, like I said, it just made me tired just watching them. But to start out, Holbrook won the toss in the first quarter at the beginning of the game. One of the things I noted here, um, for some reason, the person who controls the MC for the game, for some reason, played Triple H's theme song from wrestling from WWE.
Yep.
So I'm assuming he's a wrestling fan.
He played a few of them that night. Yeah.
Uh,
It was a couple theme songs that came out that night.
yeah, so you have to be a wrestling fan to know exactly what song. And that came on, and the Holbrook boys come running out to do their warm up, and I was like, oh, he's playing Triple H's theme song. But anyhow, it was a close quarter, right? Holbrook took the lead early. Uh, they went up 7 points, and Alchesay called a timeout at 5 minutes and 24 seconds to regroup. Not too long after that, Alchesay finally did score with a 3-pointer. So about the 5 minute mark, um, Holbrook was leading 7-3. Now here's the interesting part. From about that timeout, which was made at 5 minutes and 24 seconds, Holbrook did not score a single point until after 1 minute and 7 seconds. So Holbrook went about a good almost 5 minutes without scoring a single basket. And that was when Alchesay went on a run. They scored the 3-pointer at 5 minutes, and then they scored 2 points at about 3 minutes and 44 seconds, and they scored another 2 points at 2 minutes and 58 seconds. So about at around 2 minutes 58 seconds, Holbrook and Alchesay were tied 7-7.
Mm-hmm.
Not too long after that, another 9. Alchesay another 2 to put them up 11. Eventually ending the game or ending the first quarter with Alchesay leading 11-9. And in that first quarter, number 20, that's Chase Alibi.
Yep.
He scored 5 points in the first quarter, and number 42, Tyler Tabal, had 4 points. If we look at the three-pointers here, Jaron Pacenti shot 3 3-pointers and didn't make any. Tyler Tabal shot 1 3-pointer, didn't make it. And Caleb Cummings shot 1 and didn't make it. Alchesay only shot 1 3-pointer and they made it, right? So what do you think when you have a first quarter where it's only 9-11? What does that tell you about what is going on in that?
Mostly defenses happened in that first quarter, man. It was a low scoring game. Like you said, Holbrook came off on top 7-0 at the beginning, and I'll say readjusted and came back and um made it closer to the end, but it's all defense, man. It was a fast paced game. I know Holbrook came out quick, and they came back in the second half or the second quarter, and I believe they led the half with 22 points, or that quarter they made 22 points, and Alchesay only had 9 in that one.
Mm-hmm.
So they really turned it back after that
Yeah.
first quarter.
So here's something interesting about Holbrook, or just all this teams in the East. And what's interesting about their play is it's very fast paced, a lot of running.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think they're high intensity and just I know they're not playing a run and shoot offense. There is a structure to it. They do have a reason for passing. I do see that and I understand it. But the armchair coach, my dad, he was thinking that because they are so high intensity that it tends to make them tired. And when you get tired, you tend to miss shots and you tend to make mistakes. Do you think Holbrook sort of in that boat sometimes where they're just I noticed Tyler Chaba does get tired. I can see it sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when he's playing out there. Because he's usually out there wired unless he's in foul trouble. He's playing wire to wire, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out there most the whole time.
Uh
And yeah, I think as far as the guards, they're the ones really working the ball. They're the ones running and all that. And I see the rotation. Like Delmar knows who's tired and not. He sees it. And the rotation he has is good. There's some good guards that could come in and replace one another. Definitely a big help when Chase is playing too, man. He's their fastest guy on the team, I believe. And he's not only that, he's the best, he's the highest jumping too, and so he's a big help. I think in this game he really made a difference, and I think again it was a big quarter, second quarter for Mahai, and he finished out the game with 27 points, I believe, is what he finished out with, is what it says.
yeah, so if we go through here, 9-11 to start the quarter. Um Holbrook scored or number 20, Chase, uh, got fouled at around 7 minutes and 37 seconds. And he went to the free throw line and shot 2 and made both of them. So it's 11-13 at around 7:30, right? And the game just kind of went back and forth. 14-13, 16-13 Holbrook, 16-16 tied. 4 minutes and 56 seconds. The game was 18-16 Holbrook. 3 minutes and 40 seconds in the game, 19-16 Holbrook. So if you look here, somewhere around maybe the 5 minute mark, somewhere around there, Alchesay did not score a single basket until 1 minute and 2 seconds. So for a good 5 minutes, Alchesay did not make a single point. They did shoot 5 3-pointers and only made one. Alchesay. Holbrook shot 3 3-pointers and made 2 out of the 3. But if I look at the scoring here, I have for Holbrook, I have Chase starting it off in the second quarter, followed by Jaron, and then Tyler Tabaha, and then Chase again, and then Tyler Tabaha, and then number 20 for Holbrook. That's
my
oh yeah, Chase Salby, and then Tyler Tabaha, and then finishing out the quarter, number 23. Who was number 23 for Holbrook?
Travis Bye.
Oh, Travis Baya, right. So really, second quarter, it was just all Chase Salby and Tyler Tabaha, right? I think I have here in the second quarter. Oh, second quarter, Tyler Tabaha had 10 points, and he finished the first half with 14 points. Chase Salby had 6 points in the second quarter, and he finished off the second quarter with 11 points. So the two leading scorers in the first half was Chase Salby and Tyler Tabaha. Right.
Yeah, and they finished the game the same way too. The top two scored.
I have here my notes here. Around 2 minutes and 5 seconds, I wrote should have been Alchesay inbounding the ball. So I think what had happened at that point around that time was I think the refs were just. I think there were at least a couple moments in the game where the referees incorrectly called who the last person touched the ball before it went out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at 2 minutes and 5 seconds, I saw that. I felt that Alchesay should have gotten the ball instead of Holbrook.
Mm.
And I believe the person sitting behind me kind of said the same thing because I remember kind of laughing at his comment. He said, if it's off-white, then it's blue. So I kind of chuckled when he said that. But so that, I kind of felt the officiating, I don't think I don't, for one, think the referees showed up to the game and said, okay, we want Holbrook to win and we're going to favor all the calls for Holbrook, but I don't know exactly. It just kind of seemed most of the calls were going Holbrook's way. Did you kind of notice that?
Yeah. And that's probably some of the reason too for the last part of it. But yeah, it could have went either way. And some of the guys asking me how the calls were and all that, and I gave him that. That was my honest opinion that it could have went either way, man. Especially at the end.
Yeah. Referees play a pivotal role in the outcome of a game. If you're a sports bettor, like a serious one, you have to take into consideration who the refereeing crew is for that specific game. For example, last year in the playoffs, the Chiefs, for some weird reason, they always got the officiating crew for every single playoff game. They got an officiating crew that was always biased towards the Chiefs in the regular season. That's why everyone was kind of, and I think even this year too, when it comes to Chiefs, that's why everyone's sort of kind of rolling their eyes with the Chiefs being back in the Super Bowl again. It's like, yeah, somebody in the NFL management likes the Chiefs to be in Super Bowl for some weird reason, but I digress. We can talk about NFL on another show, but anyways, the next part here, we go to the third quarter after halftime. So starting the quarter, it's 31-20, Holbrook winning. So we have, let me see, Holbrook 31, Alchesay 22. At 6 minutes and 27 seconds, Alchesay, a player from Alchesay, number 1. Let me see who number 1 was from Alchesay. Texas James. I really like that name, Texas James. He got fouled, went to the free throw line, made both points. So at 6 minutes and 27 seconds, it's 31-24 Alchesay. Tyler Tabaha gets fouled at 6 minutes and 13 seconds. He makes both free throws to make it 33-24. At 5 minutes and 53 seconds, Alchesay gets fouled, and number 15 goes to the free throw line. Number 15, Max Antonio.
Yeah.
He makes both free throws, making it 33-26. And then at around 5 minutes and 17 seconds, Alchesay had scored, prompting Coach Johnson to call a timeout for Holbrook. And at that point, at 5 minutes and 17 seconds, it's 33-28, right? And I have number 35 scoring that 2 points prior to Holbrook calling the timeout. Number 35 from Alchesay. That's there is no 35. Maybe I meant to say, I don't know why I wrote 35.
25.
Maybe 25. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I can't be for sure. For some reason, I wrote 35. Maybe it was 25, but I'm not sure. So maybe we can't give credit, I guess, unless we know who it was. But the Alchesay player scored, and I wrote down the wrong number for that. Again, so we go after the timeout, 35-28. Number 32 from Holbrook, Jaron scored there. And then at 4 minutes and 52 seconds, number 30 from Alchesay gets fouled. Number 30 is Micah Yazi from Alchesay. He made 1 of 2 from the free throw line, making it 35-30 Holbrook. We don't get a score again until 4 minutes and 9 seconds. Holbrook scores another 2-pointer, number 23. Who is number 23 from Holbrook?
Travis.
Oh, Travis Baya. I don't know why I don't remember it. I keep praising Travis Baya for his rebounding skills, and for some reason when I see that I don't remember his name. Forgive me for that. Again, so we move again further, 39-29. Tyler Tabas scores. And this is when Alchesay sort of kind of makes a run there for a moment. 39-32. Alchesay scores number 4, Henry Cole scored that. And then Holbrook answers again. And Jaron makes it 41-32. And then number 25 from Alchesay scores the next basket. That would be Micah. How do you pronounce that? Micah True? True?
True. I would say true.
True. But yeah, so Micah scores there again. We keep going along here. We have 2 Alchesay scores again, number 25, and then number 4 again, Henry for Alchesay. So at the minute and 11 mark, Holbrook is winning 43-37. And Tyler Tabaha makes the last 2 buckets, the last 2 scores to end the quarter with Holbrook 45, Alchesay 37. In the third quarter, Holbrook only shot 1 3-pointer and missed it, and that was Jaron. Alchesay shot 1, 2, 3, 4. I think 4 3-pointers and only made 2 out of the 3. Oh, I take that back. Sorry. So number 47. Oh, the quarter ends 47-40. I mean, excuse me. We had Jaron make a score at 29.4 seconds left in the game.
Yeah, Alchesay outscored Holbrook in that quarter, 20-16. The third quarter.
And I think I have Tyler Chaba 2, 4, 6, 8 points in the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Jaron Vicente with 4 points. I could be wrong there, but maybe I added it incorrectly there. But anyways, we move into the fourth quarter here. The quarter starts out 47-40. So we move along here. Chase Salabai scores the first point of the quarter, making it 49-40 Holbrook, followed by Tyler Tabaha again at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. He gets fouled. He goes to the line, makes 1 of 2. So the score ends up being 50-40 Holbrook. And then Alchesay sort of makes a little run here. Holbrook doesn't score another point for 2 minutes. So Alchesay scores 43. So number 12 from Alchesay, that would be Adrian Dozele, scores 2 or 3, followed by number 30 from Alchesay, Micah Yaza, getting fouled at 5 minutes and 45 seconds, but misses both free throws. Jaron Vicente comes back, makes a 3-pointer, making it 53-43. We go back here. Number 1, Texas James makes a 3-pointer to make it 53-46. And then at 2 minutes and 55 seconds, Chase Salwai makes his point prior to this, but Holbrook does call a timeout with 2 minutes and 55 seconds left. Holbrook leading 55-46. Following that, Holbrook's leading 55. Number 4 from Alchesay, Henry Cole, scores another basket, making it 55-48. And then at 1 minute and 59 seconds, Texas James makes a three-pointer, making it 55-51. And Alchesay calls a timeout there.
That was a big one right there.
Right. So Alchesay starts to make a move around this point to put themselves in a position to either win the game or at least give them a chance to win the game, right?
Yeah, that three put them for the next quarter.
Mm-hmm. So following the timeout, we have Tyler Tabaha getting fouled at 1 minute and 32 seconds left in the game. He makes the shot, so it's an and one. He goes to the line and he makes that as well, putting Holbrook up 58-41. And then again, you have Texas James comes back and makes a two-pointer, making it 58-53. And Alchesay calls a timeout at 1 minute 17. And here is where I make a note. I put no timeouts for Alchesay at 1 minute and 17 seconds. And I think I heard the coach tell his players that they have no more timeout. That's why I put that there.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, Alchesay used all their timeouts. They're losing by, was it 5, 6, 7, 8? Yeah, 5 points at this point. How do you think Alchesay not having any timeouts really impacted them in the final minute of the game?
Yeah, they relied on fouls at the end. It's the only way they could stop the clock, and that's Holbrook made, I think, after free throws. I think when Tyler and Chase went to the free throw line, I believe. So that was the only way they could stop the clock.
Yeah, so looking at the strategy of the game, they were trying to stop the clock, calling those timeouts so that they could give them, I guess, more chances to score without having a penalty of losing time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But though they were able to make up that difference, the lack of timeouts in the final minute, I think, made it chaotic for them.
Mm-hmm.
Disorganized. And remember I said before we started talking about Altus, or when we first started talking about this game, I said that Holbrook would win by 5 because I felt that Coach Johnson was going to navigate them through the final part of the game, and that Alchesay was going to have a hard time trying to respond or having a hard time when it came down to the wire in these close games, right?
Mm-hmm.
So moving on to here, we have a score 58-56 at 1 minute and 3 seconds. Number 32. Okay, so Holbrook was winning 58-56 with about a minute left. So we go to 41. So at 41 seconds, Jaron Vicente makes a late bad pass. And keep in mind, Holbrook's winning 58-56 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There really is no reason for them to try to get across half court or put themselves in a scoring position quickly because they're winning. And there's only 41 seconds left. Alchesay has no timeouts left. So I guess as a person watching, it was sort of frustrating to see them make a mistake like that, right? And I know that from what I saw from Coach Johnson, he wasn't too happy either that they made this risky pass when they had no reason to try to make a pass like that to begin with, because time is on their side. Alchesay has no timeouts.
Yeah.
It just didn't seem, definitely was not a wise decision to them.
Mm-hmm.
And why exactly that happened, I guess, is anyone's guess. Maybe you'll have to ask the player, but you and I talked about this in the podcast a couple podcasts ago about how players knowing the rules and knowing the strategy, just knowing what, I guess, situational awareness, game awareness, right? And understanding how where you're at in the game, understanding that and knowing how you can respond to that. And I feel like I just said a whole bunch of nothing there. But yeah, it's just knowing the situation and knowing that you're ahead in the game. So there's no reason. Everything's on your side. There's no reason to try to make risky plays like that.
Yeah.
So we go again here. Uh, Traveling against Alchesay at 18.9 seconds, and at this point, Alchesay is losing 58-56. And that was around that time there was a controversial call, and maybe it was the traveling that prompted it, but Alchesay ended up getting a technical foul at a minute or at 7.7 seconds left in the game. And it was one of the Alchesay staff. I think it was.
Yeah, I believe someone on the bench.
Yeah, it wasn't a player. It was I don't know, the person that maybe does the books for them, right?
Yeah,
Um,
she wasn't happy about one of the calls
yeah,
made and maybe mouth off or something to the
and yeah, and the ref ended up calling a
yeah.
technical foul on Alchesay for that. Um,
And Mahai went to the line and I believe made 1 out of 2, I believe, right?
yes, he made 1 out of 2, making it 59-56. And then I think Holbrook. Oh yeah, so then Holbrook got fouled because I think they were at the bonus at this point,
Mhm.
and number 20 Chase went to the line, made 1 of 2, making it 60-56, and that was I think the final score of the game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So Holbrook ended up closing the game at the very end due to some favorable calls. Um, Altusay came out and they they really want to win this one, and I was I guess I was hoping for a good game, right?
Hmm.
And it was certainly one that could be one that they could certainly steal here in Holbrook, and I thought maybe that would be the case, right? All right, we're back. We had a technical difficulty there just now, but anyway, so the game ends. Holbrook winning 60-56. I was taking my notes there, and then all of a sudden, from my perspective or from my vantage point, there was a commotion that had occurred right behind me, and there ended up being an altercation between fans. I want to say maybe 4 benches behind me, and I know you and I were kind of sitting in the same bench, so it, the incident occurred the same distance with you as well, right? And I guess we won't go into this like specifics or anything because we don't know anything for sure. So, out of respect for the people involved and whatnot, I guess we won't really speculate or anything like that because I guess for if I were to, I guess in my mind it's speculation on what exactly caused it. But when I think about this incident between the fans and that altercation, it reminds me of the last podcast we did uh, about Monument Valley. And in that podcast, the one we did recently, I said that sportsmanship at Monument Valley was a big thing. And every other song, they were playing a public announcement saying, fans, uh, don't be a problem, basically, right?
Hmm.
And I remember saying in that podcast, I had never seen that before and that they must have had issues. Well, I was definitely shocked by what had happened because I had never seen anything like this take place at a Holbrook game before.
Hmm.
And the fact that it happened right behind me was also, to my surprise, something that I wasn't expecting. We weren't expecting that either.
Nope. It was everybody's focus was on the game, from my point of view, and I just remember I I I didn't even hear anything. Like it was just you just hear the crowd cheering in until I think maybe the crowd on the other side, you notice them kind of paying attention over behind us, and then you turn around, and next thing you know, there's like all this commotion going on and people falling and all that's happening behind us.
Uh-huh.
It was wild.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was shocking to see, and I know a lot of fans are also shocked to see that as well. If I think back on the boys game specifically, from at least from where I was sitting, because I know the fans, like the altercation, the place where the altercation took place was just right behind me, and I don't remember hearing anything, I guess, unusual beyond just regular fans kind of voicing their frustration at the referees or whatever. Uh, so I was surprised, I guess, that whatever was going on between these individuals, that it eventually led to violence
Mm-hmm.
between them, right? Uh, so I guess that whole in the first podcast, I think I mentioned it's sad when a game becomes more than a game to people, right? Because we're here to celebrate these young people and watch their accomplishments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know one of the I'm not sure if this is the current or maybe it's one of the older sayings for the AIA, but it used to be I think their old saying was pursue victory with honor, right? And I think that goes with the fans too. These are just young people. They're not professional players, right? They're this is an extracurricular activity, you know. And to see fans, you want your team to win, right? But don't let it become more than a game, right? And again, this is for the young men and women out there, and we're just there to support them and in good competition. So I guess it comes full circle when I think about being at Monte Valley, right? It's fans shouldn't be a problem, and what makes it worse is these were adults that were engaged in this behavior. If maybe if it was maybe it'd be slightly different if it was teenagers, but in this case it was adults, and to me it was just kind of unusual and I guess kind of unfortunate to see that it was adults behaving like this, whether it's from fans from both sides. So, but beyond that, I don't really know exactly. Like I said, I don't know what exactly prompted these two individuals or these people to do this, but again, it's all we always talk about trying to set an example for young people,
Mm-hmm.
for the community, and you know, I know I don't when I go to games, I definitely don't get caught up in I want our team to win whoever we're going for, but I don't ever let myself get caught up in all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it goes the same for even professional. Like I just can't believe like when you hear about NFL games, team players, people who have no, they're just fans. They don't determine the outcome of the game. They don't play in the game, but yet they're out there in the stands in these professional games fighting each other
Yeah.
as if they were there or something. So, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's it's pretty sad, as adults, and um I never thought I'd experience that here in our own town, like in our own gym too, like you said. And I've seen it before in other places like summer basketball, even at kids games. I've seen it happen in Phoenix. Um, Coaches and staff see even they get into it too. Coaches and the fans, referees. Um, I seen it in Flagstaff happen one time too. Another coach, and it's pretty sad. As adults, you need to be an example. These kids, I remember seeing the game too between Holbrook and the boys game. There was about some words being talked, and you can tell it was an intense game. It could have went either way, and there was some trash talking going on. It was clearly noticeable, but no, it's just sad that it happened. It had to happen on the bleachers too.
Uh, uh, I haven't really seen Alchesay play um really at all. Um, I never actually gone to a game in Alchesay, and even when they came to Holbrook, and I don't think I've ever really seen them. I think I've only seen them a couple times since the year 2000. But um, I guess what I'm trying to say about this is when something like this happens, it just kind of sort of I feel like it gives people preconceived notions about a community, right?
Yeah.
Um, I always try to see the good in people, and from what I could tell, at least when the Alchesay players are warming up and sort of their interactions getting close to the end of the game, I thought, um, they were just teenagers. I didn't really see any problems or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like I said, when fans act like that and do things like that, it puts a bad image in people's minds about certain communities,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I know that I kind of seen arguments like I think Holbrook versus St. John's. I remember there was argument that was going on between St. John's coaching staff and some fans, Holbrook fans that were attending. You know, I've seen stuff like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like I said, when fans act like that, it sort of gives people the wrong impression about your community. Because I'm sure there's a lot of good people. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of good people in White River and in the White Mountain Apache reservation as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the same thing for the Holbrook side too. It 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 gives the wrong impression too about fans here in Holbrook as well. So, I'm definitely not putting blame on anybody because I don't know, and I'm not involved with that or anything like that. But that's just kind of like my general thoughts about
Mm-hmm.
that incident. Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I know when Alchesay has their games, man, they show up. Alchesay fans show up, man. I remember watching games in state playoffs back in the early 2000s and late 90s, and back then they had the games in Flagstaff in the first couple rounds, and Alchesay fans would fill that place up, man. You'll see that happen too in the state playoffs, in the state games and all that. They show up. So yeah, like that night, I think Alchesay might have even been a little louder that night too. Maybe it seemed like, and but they definitely support their kids, man.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one here. Holbrook versus Snowflake. Um, what were your thoughts on the Holbrook versus Snowflake game? Or hold on for a moment. This was a game that Holbrook needed to win in order to put themselves in position to win the East, right? Snowflake did lose did they lose to Winslow? They lost to Alchesay for sure.
They beat Winslow.
They beat Winslow, but they lost the game to Alchesay, right?
Yeah.
So and then Holbrook lost to Snowflake at Snowflake
Yep.
because you and I were both at that game. So I remember that one.
I believe Winslow won one and Snowflake won one. I think they're even on theirs.
So they split the series.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe they did.
So yeah, so this was a game, and I think last podcast you and I basically said that Holbrook needed to basically win the rest of their games in order to win the East, and I think they have to beat Alchesay again on Tuesday and show low on Wednesday next week. So it's not over for them yet. It's not an easy road for them to win. But anyways, what were your thoughts on the Snowflake Holbrook boys versus Snowflake boys?
It was a great game. Right away, it was a high intense game. Fast pace, a lot of um, a lot of quick scoring. Snowflake came out, I believe, first quarter they were ahead. Some quick runs. Holbrook answered back in the second quarter, and I think by halftime it was a tied up game. And it was a good game, for sure. Um, Snowflake used their size advantage. They got more rebounds. They ran the ball a little more. But they did have Chase this time. Holbrook had Chase. I believe the last time I think they didn't have Chase, if I remember right.
Yeah, he was. I don't believe he played against Snowflake at
So
Snowflake.
he was definitely was a difference that night too. And with the altercation that happened before the last game, I couldn't tell that the whole thing happened. Then everybody showed up, played normally like nothing had happened, and it's good to see that. It's good to see fans at ease, and there was security there this time too. So it was definitely a good atmosphere this game.
Uh-huh. Yeah, not to go back to the last game, but when I recall, this was probably the Alchesay Holbrook game. That was the first game I felt there. That's the first game I thought this whole season there was no. They usually have like a police officer there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So with the one game, this one game there, this incident took place during a Holbrook game in which there was no security, right? Which was I thought just a strange coincidence that just happened to happen
hmm
that one time. But anyways, so you were saying Snowflake again?
yeah. Um, yeah, it was definitely a good game. The boys answered back. Mahai definitely had a good game. He definitely had the inside game. But in the second half, I believe Tyler only had 1 point in in the fourth quarter. I think he only had one, just a free throw. I think second quarter he might have had 2 points also. But it was definitely some of the other boys from the other positions stepped up. Mayo Rico had a quick three in the fourth quarter that definitely changed the mood of the game too. And him and some of the other boys stepped up. They put up the points that Holbrook needed that Tyler couldn't do. No, he wasn't. It wasn't like he couldn't do it, but the other boys stepped up when they needed to. So I definitely seen the other boys come up and do what they had to.
Okay, so Holbrook ended up on top against Snowflake, and I think because of that victory, I think the East is Holbrook's to lose. So they will have Alchesay on Tuesday and then Sholo on Wednesday. And uh, it's not an easy path for them to win the East, but they are certainly on good ground to do so. But anything can happen, right? Anything can happen
Mm-hmm.
during any of these games. Um, so there are no certainties, only probabilities. I took that from a podcaster named George Gammon, by the way. I didn't make that up. Just so everybody knows. um, so anyways, that uh sort of I guess does that wrap up what you were gonna say about Snowflake Holbrook?
Yeah, pretty much. Just the rankings, I guess. You want to
Uh
go through that, some of that.
sure. Absolutely. So if we go through, let's talk copper first for 3A girls. We still have, and this is as of last week still, so it'll be updated on Monday. Chinley's still at the top. Miami Vandals at number 2. They're a 2A team.
Mm-hmm.
They're ranked number 2 in the copper, followed by Phoenix Country Day, and then Snowflake Girls at number 4. Tuba City number 5, San Carlos number 6, Sholo number 7, Page at 8, Push Ridge at 9, Ganado at 10, Arizona Lutheran at 11, Pima at 12, Fort Thomas at 13, Valley Christian at 14, Joseph City at number 15, and Monument Valley at number 16. So this is just the top 16. Uh, for the teams on the outside, well, they're still in the mix to make the opening round. Yeah, Payson, St. John's, Glendale Prep, Coolidge, Fountain Hills, Seton Catholic, St. David, and Tombstone Yellow Jackets. What's interesting about the 3A copper bracket is they definitely have a lot more representation when it comes to 1A and 2A teams as compared to the boys copper division.
Yeah.
The boys copper division is just heavily favored with 3A teams, right?
Oh,
So looking at that here, you and I mentioned last week that Finley or not Finley, that the copper bracket is going to have a lot of the top ranked teams in 3A in it. And off the top of the list here, you have Chinle, Snowflake, Tuba City, and Sholo. Uh, Not saying that's the top four, but they have a really good chance at being, in the semifinals for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think leaves the door open again for teams like uh, Holbrook, Ganado, um, teams like them having a chance to win the 3A state tournament.
Yep.
I guess if Ganado and Page fall out early in the Copper division, I really think those two teams could possibly, and maybe even Tuba City too, if they somehow Tuba City, Ganado, or Page fall out of the Copper bracket early, those three teams probably would be a favorite to win the 3A state championship. I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree to that.
Uh, if you look at the 1A teams, Joseph City at number 15, it just makes me wonder if the Copper rankings are making it look like there's not a whole lot of disparity between. I mean, there is, but they're it's not as pronounced as boys basketball. Do you think that when it comes to girls basketball, that there's a huge gap between 1A and 3A? I mean, there definitely is a gap, but do you think there's a big one, or is it a small gap?
I don't think it's that huge. Like you said, Miami, they're making a lot of noise down there in the South, and they beat some pretty good teams, like some higher class teams, and Chinle faced a few of them down in the Pepsi Invitational too, and they beat some pretty big teams out there too. I mean, they're 3A, but yeah, I don't think I see a whole lot of big significance in that.
Mm-hmm. If we look at just the 3A girls rankings, you have Chinle, Snowflake, Tuba City, Sholo, Page, Bush Ridge, Ganado, Valley Christian, and Monument Valley. That's the top 9, followed by Payson, Coolidge, and Seton Catholic. Um, they're probably going to update the rankings, but Holbrook is at number 16. So I guess I could see if Holbrook can beat Alchesay on Tuesday. Talk about Holbrook girls. I think they could make the 3A tournament, just a regular 3A
Yeah,
tournament.
I believe they could.
Winslow at number 23. Um, if they're not careful, they could be on the outside looking in. So they definitely need to continue to come out and play their last couple of games in the East.
Mhm. And yeah, for the state championship, for the state playoffs, the top 16 teams can go. And right now, Holbrook's right on the verge of making it, man.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is girls basketball. Let's take a look at boys basketball for the 3A. So Copper Division, and you and I just talked about how there's a gap between 3A and 1A, but it's not too wide. But the 3A, the Copper Division for the small school boys, I think there's a big gap between 3A and 1A. I think Valley Christian is just running over everybody in the 3A, right? I think they're good enough to play in the 4A.
Yep.
I don't think they're good enough to win a state championship in the 4A, but they're definitely good enough to be a top ranked team in the 4A. You have Valley Christian, Gilbert Christian, Yuma Catholic, Benjamin Franklin, Florence, Palo Verde Magnet, ALA Ironwood, Page, and Parker. I'm going to go on a limb here and say the state championship will most likely be for the Copper Division, probably the top 4: Benjamin Franklin, Yuma Catholic, Gilbert Christian, and Valley Christian. I just don't see Page, unless they get really lucky, or unless they get really lucky. I don't really see them making it past any of those top 4 teams in the Copper Division for the boys, but I don't know. Anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Holbrook is sitting at number 13 in the Copper, so if they continue to win, they will definitely make the Open. Um, it's just going to depend on where they're seated at. I guess number 13, it's they could possibly win the first round. I think they have a chance at winning their first round, but it gets progressively harder or more difficult in that copper bracket.
Yeah.
Winslow is at number 17 in the copper division. So if we go to, actually, excuse me, we were just talking about just the 3A rankings. Excuse me. So in the 3A rankings only, Holbrook's at Holbrook's at 13, Alchesay at 14, Winslow at 17, Shinley at 19, Tuba City at 26. So I guess we just take the top 24, right? Hopper specifically for the boys rankings. Valley Christian, Gilbert Christian, Phoenix Country Day, Yuma Catholic, Santan Carter, Benjamin Franklin, North Valley Christian, Rancho Solano, Arizona Lutheran, Florence, Palo Verde, Pima, ALA Ironwood, Page, Fountain Hills, Parker, Coolidge, Morenci, Sabino, Snowflake, Holbrook. And Holbrook is in the running for making the copper. Scottsdale Christian, Alchesay, and Fort Thomas, with Fort Thomas being the only representative from the 1A on this list. So, yeah, it'll be. I think Holbrook does have a shot at the 3A tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But for the copper, I'm not so confident in that one. But you never know. Maybe they could be like like in the movie The Hoosiers and make it all the way. You never know. um, so anyways, so moving on to wrap this up here. We're hoping to get some guests before the state championship tournament starts. We're trying to make those arrangements out, so we will keep you posted on that when that does happen. But for now, we're just going to continue to follow the local teams, and hopefully, uh, everyone comes out to support their local team. And senior night is coming up for a lot of these teams. If either they've already done it already or they're going to be having it, like Holbrook is having theirs on Wednesday, I believe, against Solo.
Yeah.
So if it's always good for the community to come out and support, these young men and young women out there. They put in a lot of hard work and effort into going out there and doing this, and I'm sure they really appreciate your support out there. Do you have any final thoughts, Mac?
Uh, th- all these kids, we're just here trying to support them, and like incidents that happened last week, that's something that we shouldn't be involved in or even trying to start and all that. And it's about the kids, it's about the kids, and some of these kids come from homes that some tough situation homes. We ought to support them and keep these places, these venues, keep it a safe environment for these kids, be an example, and let's just have fun.
Yeah, well said. So please, when you're anyone out there, please like and subscribe this video. Please let everybody know about this podcast. We're trying to get some more support, and hopefully, as we move on through this season, and we can get more content out there for everybody out there. And I'm certainly looking forward to how this podcast is going to evolve. As you can see with our set here, we sort of changed some things around. We're trying to make it so that we don't look like we're sitting in the kitchen, which we were in our last videos. So hopefully, our efforts here at Sports on I-40 that we're bringing some kind of value to everybody, and hopefully we are, at least bringing you a message out there about what is happening in the 3A North and the 3A East. And we also want to give a shout out to the 1A and 2A too. They also are putting in a lot of work as well. Just as much as the other conferences. Joseph City's. I know the girls are doing really well at Joseph City, right?
Yep.
And the boys as well. they're hanging in there too. And they're doing very well. The 1A or I think it's the 1A Central tournament is happening in Williams this weekend, and then the 3A North region tournament is happening in Winter Rock.
Yeah.
So if you're in the area, feel free to go on over to Williams to see the 1A, or to go to Winter Rock to see the 3A North. Just the atmosphere is really nice, right? I went last year to the 3A North tournament. It was nice to see the fan attendance and see everybody out there. I think Winter Rock was selling Navajo burgers last year, but the line was too long, so I ended up just getting a hot dog and some popcorn. So maybe this year, if I go, I can get myself a Navajo burger, but we'll see.
Yep.
Anyways, so thank you again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Please get the word out there. And thank you for listening to this podcast. Have a good morning, afternoon, evening, and night.